Welcome back, everybody. Behind the scenes here. Flip my camera around. We're still at my kitchen table. We get to see a little bit more of this kitchen space. This is going to be a really casual video. I'm making these once per year, halfway through, so I can talk a little bit about games, upcoming videos, different perspectives or ideas that are floating around my head that I may not dedicate video time to. And so that's what you're going to get today. Some of the games that I've been playing recently. I'm going to give you a little bit of my new perspectives and appreciations on games as I'm getting older and I have these videos that I want to make. I'm playing a lot of these games, especially the longer AAA ones, and I'm kind of viewing them through a different lens. I'll get into that in a bit. And I might go over a couple of upcoming videos because, I don't know, that's one of the fun things about being behind the scenes, isn't it? You get a little preview of what's to come. So let's get into the games, because if you clicked on this randomly, that's probably what's most interesting. I'm not going to talk at length. Again, I will cover these at the end of the year when I do my games beaten. And some of these will be featured in their own reviews or in different rankings and series. I played a couple of games on the NES, one on the SNES, one 3DS, and a bunch of PC games. And on the NES, to start out, it was really nice going back to Super Mario Bros. 2. A game from my childhood, but never my favorite Mario game. I liked the first one. I love the third game. And this one, my sister liked it. I remember that. And even I liked a lot of the features. Throwing the red potion, creating a door out of thin air, the character select, the music. Some of the greatest music, actually, is in this game. And just being able to play those different characters, use Peach to be able to hover, or Luigi to get a super high jump. But man, am I not good at this game. So even though I've talked about this in a previous video, it's not that I don't condone the use of cheats or save states. Especially as I get older, I'm a little more empathetic about how people play these games and try to get through them with limited time or just limited capabilities. But it's definitely a tainted experience. I beat this game with save states, and a lot of that comes down to the fact that I wasn't enjoying it as much as I'd hoped, and I didn't want to spend more than a few nights playing this game, trying to figure out the level layouts, trying to just redo certain sections with a bit of tricky platforming. It's not that the game is the hardest, although that obviously the difficulty contributes a little bit. But I'm a little bit out of luck right now with a good way to play these NES games. The pad that I'd been using that replicated the SNES controller, it's gotten wonky now. So I tried to play it on Logitech controller, and the D-pad there is crunchy and feels gross, and just did not have a good time. But at least I've put that game now behind me so that I can talk about it when I do my Super Mario Bros. Ranking. And I don't know when that's going to be. I don't even know what games I have to include there. Super Mario Land on the Game Boy? I think so, but I don't know. I haven't played any of those, so that adds a few titles to the backlog here. Anyways, let's move on. Taking too long talking about one game already. Castlevania. This was my first foray into the Castlevania series, and I really enjoyed it. I knew that at some point it was going to be really good with Symphony of the Night. Many of you know that I've got this odd habit, this odd quirk, where I can't just jump into the middle of the series. I at least have to go back to the beginning to feel it out and to develop an appreciation for the roots of the series. How did it start? And I was pleasantly surprised by how the series started out. Castlevania on NES, amazing music, amazing presentation, cool enemy designs, cool main character, cool boss fights, just a lot of stuff that I like. And I know for pretty much everybody who can beat this game, the difficulty is something to be appreciated. But again, kind of like with Super Mario Bros. 2, the difficulty was something that made me resort to save states. The game is very generous with its continues and where it puts you back. But still, there were a couple of bosses where I just had to create a save point before the boss so that I could replay the boss only and not the whole level. So, again, a tainted experience for beating the game, but I didn't use any cheats beyond that, and I really do like most of what the game has to offer. And if I wasn't an impatient person, I might dedicate more time to trying to beat it. But again, there's just too many videos I want to create, too many games in the backlog, too little time. As I get older, I'm working more, and I'm trying to balance so many more things. For an NES title, that I don't really care to have any bragging rights about. I just gotta beat it and move on. Super NES, Super Castlevania 4. Now, one might think that this is the fourth game in the Super Castlevania series, not in the Castlevania series, but no, it's just a little prefix that was added for the SNES. This game, for those of you who haven't played it, it is a remake of the first Castlevania, and even though there's Castlevania 2 and Castlevania 3, that's why I went to this title, because I just wanted to immediately compare these two games. And Super Castlevania 4, I liked it better. It was a lot of fun. It was a little bit easier, but it had its difficulty spikes, in particular with the bosses. So wait, am I correct in that? Oh man, I'm gonna have to revisit this now. Maybe the bosses were easier. Now I really can't remember. Maybe one of you can chime in. A few of you can chime in, and I'm sure my opinion is going to be with the consensus. But yeah, I was playing the game, and I was thinking, oh, this is nice. I'm not going to have to use any save states. And sure enough, I got to some point where I started relying on the save states. The stages are longer. That's one of the big things about the game. And so if you get impatient with the platforming, if you don't have the right power up, if your health has gotten low because you were a little sloppy with certain enemies, do you want to restart the level, or do you want to use a save state? So that's what I did. But again, it's an old game that I have a lot of appreciation for. No, I'm not a part of the club who can beat this game as is. I had to use my cheats in the form of save states, but it's a game that I'm going to be recommending in a future video. 3DS, Nano Assault EX, a fun little, technically a twin stick shooter, even though you play with a D-pad. Or no, you play with buttons and the circle pad, the thumb pad. That thing sucks, by the way. Even in a game like Pokemon, it's just, you can be holding it down, riding your bike, and all of a sudden it starts to slip underneath your thumb. Can't stand it, but I still love the 3DS. Nano Assault EX is a great twin stick shooter with that arcadey shoot 'em up style mixed with a new 3D environment explorative shooter. I'm going to be talking about this game in the future. I'm going to spend a little more time on it, hopefully, when I do my games beaten at the end of the year. And I'm also going to include it at some point in 15 games with incredible presentation. It is worth highlighting at least that feature. It gives me one more opportunity to talk about this game. Maybe I'll just put a little bit of footage. Oh no, I played on 3DS though. I can't show you guys footage unless I just download a trailer. Look it up though. Nano Assault EX if you like old school shooters, or if you want to see a shooter with a modern twist. And I'll leave it at that for now. On PC, The Witness, A Short Hike, Dead Rising, Alan Wake, Tales of Arise. The Witness, I'll probably talk about this again at more length. It was a very difficult puzzle game. And you know that I love puzzle games, but this one focused so much on puzzles in a grid format. A lot of them had to do with mazes. A lot of them had to do with recognizing symmetry or shapes. It looked really pretty, but I've never played a puzzle game that was so hard that required you to beat so much of it to beat the game. I don't even think Baba Is You made you beat this many hard puzzles to beat it. Although maybe, I don't know. So it's a game that as I played it more and more, I eventually had to resort to using some solutions, probably for 10% of the puzzles. Okay, that's less than Baba Is You. Let's say 10 to 20%, and it's still less than Baba Is You, but I don't know. The impossible puzzles here felt like just not fun. I'll talk about it more later. A Short Hike is a great game that I will feature in a video in a few months. Looks really good. Some of you may have seen it on the eShop or a Steam sale or something like that. Basically, you play this little bird character in the fall, and you're making your way up a mountain. What I found really fun about it was the exploration, and also the things that facilitate the exploration, some of the platforming, if you want to call them that. Dead Rising and Alan Wake. I want to go on a little tangent here and talk about my expectations for these games by studios like Capcom, and I'm sorry I'm forgetting the studio that makes Alan Wake. Alan Wake, Control, Max Payne. Okay, no, I'm drawing a blank and I'm not going to be able to think of it. Anyways, My expectations for Alan Wake were set pretty high just because I've heard so many good things about all of these games. And I'd never played a game by the studio before. It was fine. I'm still going to be recommending it at some point in the future. It's just like they focus too much on the wrong elements. They focus too much on the story elements. And this game really feels like a victim of developers getting too far ahead on story-based games and forgetting about fun gameplay. There was fun gameplay here, and the gameplay would evolve with every chapter, but then it became too repetitive. Again, I'll talk about this more in a few months, I promise. There is a video where I'm featuring it. Dead Rising, a game that I played as a kid, no, a teenager. I wasn't like up to 10 years old. No, I was a teenager when I played this game. I've mentioned before how I borrowed a copy from my friend and he wanted it back after one weekend. And it's like, buddy, I didn't even get to play it more than one day. Anyway, so I finally played it now and it was fine. A game with some really high highs and some really low lows. Kind of like when I described Okami, but drastically different gameplay. Just, the experience and how I felt about it when I played. Man, oh man, the AI was a real pain to deal with. And I know that the remake has been criticized and highlighted in one of those Crowbee Cat videos. One word, Crowbee Cat. But that's a guy who does these videos every now and then with no narration. He just puts together a bunch of clips and developer footage and behind the scenes footage. And he typically makes these videos to showcase games that have been remade in a poor way. Or in the case of Cyberpunk, just the disastrous launch that it had, how the game wasn't ready to be launched. So he did a video about Dead Rising remake, and my understanding was that the remake was going to be pretty bad, or was bad. And because I'd already purchased Dead Rising, the original, and because I'd already played it from my friend's copy, I thought, this is what I'm going to stick with. But the AI was horrendous. And apparently the remake fixes that. So if you want to play Dead Rising, then check out the remake. Aside from that, again, my expectations were high because it was Capcom. At this point, I've kind of learned that Capcom has a lot of cheesiness in their games. There's so many parts of the game that just feel like one of those classic horror zombie movies. And you shouldn't expect amazing acting. And if they ever lean into the cheesy acting, then it's deliberate and intentional. And you're supposed to find it kind of funny or charming. And I did. It was mostly the gameplay elements. Tons of backtracking and terrible... what do you call those quests now when you have somebody with you and you have to babysit them? Wow. I'm just forgetting everything today. You have these in all kinds of games. They're people's least favorite parts. When some character comes with you and you have to take them someplace and they're vulnerable to enemy attacks and all of that. An escort mission. Yeah, the game is the game is like 40% escort missions, and I didn't realize that going into it. But anyways, Dead Rising and Alan Wake, basically a little disappointed with these bigger studios. But again, not having the most fun with indie games exactly. Indie games can only go so far. They can only show you so much. They can only spend so much time on any given element. And if they want to focus on the story, usually it's just, I don't know, it's like some millennial who hasn't had a lot of life experience, and so there isn't that much of a story to tell. They can only flesh it out so much. They usually focus more on like little close-up cutscenes, maybe in a comic strip style. The environments aren't exactly grand enough to appreciate. I'm not knocking all these developers. I'm just saying these are some of the limitations when you're going to be an independent developer. And there's all these other things about games that I'm learning to appreciate, like the environments. Man, I've loved environments more and more and more over the years. And so throwing AAA developers a bit of a bone here, because that's basically part of the status quo, is you got to create some grand game world. It doesn't have to be massive, but it has to be something that the player can appreciate. So I jump into Tales of Arise, and I love the Tales series. Tales of Symphonia is one of my favorite games of all time. I like Vesperia. I've played about 6 to 8 titles in the series already, and I thought playing this game, starting out, this could be my game of the year. I had it around like a 9 out of 10 for the early parts of the game, and it started to fall off. And I haven't beaten it yet. I might do a review for it because there's a lot that I want to talk about. But this game, and reading a little bit online about some games that are too big, started to inspire a video idea. And so I might give my own interpretation, my own opinions on games that are too big or too long. And I can use Tales of Arise as a great example where it's not necessarily that it's padded with too much gameplay or too much storytelling, although in the case of Arise, there is too much storytelling. And so the developers needed to sift through a lot of this and just kind of pick out some of the quality bits and cut out some of the rest. But the pacing and the arrangement of where there's a story-heavy section and where there's a gameplay-heavy section, if that's done incorrectly, it makes certain parts of the game drag on. And if you had a quick first half, you might have a little more patience for a slow second half. If you had a slow first half, good luck getting to the good parts in the second half because you might already be burned out. So there's a lot of ideas that I'm kind of tossing around. Haven't made any notes about it, but that's a video that I kind of want to do. There's a little bit of a humorous food for thought video, just something about console hardware that, again, I'm using this word a lot in this behind the scenes video, but that I appreciate. And so I kind of want to make a short video on that. Just ask people what it is about consoles or an innovation that they've appreciated. Like I said, my Tales of Arise review and these seasonal games, man, I don't get burnout with video games because this is what I do when I have my free time. This is what I enjoy coming home to after a long day of work. But my selection has kind of been made for me with the games that I've been playing this year and trying to go through all these games for the seasonal games mini-series that I'm doing. I can't wait for this to be over. I was a little lucky with the summer games because 2 of them I'd already played and beaten before, so I didn't have to replay Final Fantasy X. I didn't have to replay Pokemon, any of the Ultra Sun or Sun and Moon games. And the other ones were fairly short. Autumn, I'm glad I got started on some of these autumn games in the spring because I'll play a couple games like Dead Rising and Alan Wake and wonder, where did my last few weeks go? I've been gaming, but I've kind of been forcing myself to play these 5, 6, 7 out of 10 games. 7 out of 10 game, that's okay. I can't keep on playing 7 out of 10 games over and over in a row consecutively, but I can play a couple of them back to back. But yeah, anyways, you kind of go, you get where I'm going with this, and I'll just move on. I think the last thing I was going to mention with some video ideas, if it doesn't come to me in the next 10 seconds, we're basically going to end the video here because it's getting long enough. What are some videos? Oh, the Incredible Games and the Games for Beginners series. So I have wanted to do another compilation for 15 incredible games. But again, when I have free time and when I'm starting a new game, I've been putting it towards the seasonal games because I feel like those deadlines are set in stone. I can't get around the fact that we have a new season every 3 months. And so I've been forcing myself to play games for those series. But I've got way more ideas for the 15 Incredible Games miniseries. I want to do 15 incredible games with, well, they're written down on my computer. I don't have them in front of me here. But presentation is a big one. And it's one that you guys have heard me talk about multiple times before. Ocarina of Time. When I did my ranking the Zelda games, I picked Ocarina of Time for the best presentation in the Zelda games because it was the first time that I was captivated by entering a new dungeon or entering a new area and the camera panning and flying around to the different parts of that overworld or that dungeon and showing you different features, different enemies, or whatever it was. That's just one element of presentation that I love. And I mentioned earlier with Nano Assault EX, the presentation in that game and why I would include it in that list is because everything is drawn thematically. Everything is presented to be like you are this futuristic little nano assaulter, this mechanized robot. And so everything's a little digitized and mechanical and futuristic. You get the point, right? Way more series or way more episodes in the 15 incredible games that I want to do. And I don't think I've done an episode this year. So if you're somebody who's subscribed to me because you like getting those long lists of recommendations, those compilations, I'm sorry that I haven't done one yet. But it's been these other videos and the seasonal games that's really taken up my time here. And lastly, with the games for beginners, same thing. I would love to just dedicate more time to concentrated bursts of platformers, concentrated burst of what did I want to do? Fighting games, but they're on the backlog. They're on the back burner. So anyways, we're at 20 minutes right now. Thanks everybody for watching. Anything you want to talk about here? I realize I didn't offer much in the way of discussion and back and forth, so I apologize about that. But that's the update. That's a little bit of the games I've been playing, and those are some thoughts on the videos that are going to be coming out later. Thanks again for watching. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.